Hey, so I just want to show you a few more of my Lucio Fulci DVDs and Blu-rays, and next up is The Beyond. Now this is considered by many to be the Lucio Fulci film, his masterpiece, his ultimate gothic zombie nightmare. What I've got here is an Austrian Blu-ray from XT Video. It's got the German and English audio. From the production value viewpoint, The Beyond is definitely one of Fulci's most successful films and most elaborate films from the period. There is great set design, the flooded cellar and the dusty hotel rooms. It's all very atmospheric and stays with you a lot more than the story itself, because the story is really vague. The screenplay was probably just a few pages and the dialogue makes no sense. The movie on the whole, watching it over and over again, I can't still piece it together. It's almost like a David Lynch narrative. I don't think the prologue is really so necessary. I don't need the prologue there. And then the film kind of starts off in present day, and I like that bit when it builds up, when the characters first meet. And then once the action shifts to the hospital, when there are more random victims introduced, then the film kind of falls apart for me a little bit, and then it picks up again in the end. So I think in The Beyond you get about 35-minute greatness and then about 40 minutes of goodness. So it's a brilliant film which also has some good scenes. Not my favorite Fulci, but I can see why it's so acclaimed, because obviously there is a lot of gore and a lot of set pieces which, you know, if you're into old school effects, The Beyond is an amazing film. Next up is a giallo. This is Don't Torture a Duckling, a wonderful film. You could learn a lot about filmmaking from Don't Torture a Duckling. It's so well put together. There is amazing cinematography and editing in this film. It's one of Fulci's most competent and most technically proficient achievements. The reason this film isn't so well known is that it resurfaced quite late on home video, and also it's a sad story. It's a really well told story, but it's profoundly grim and sad. So it's not an upbeat movie, even by Fulci standards. This is some terribly sad and upsetting stuff. So I think some people might not want to come back to revisit Don't Torture a Duckling often for that reason. I think Fulci's gothic horrors are easier to stomach because they're more abstract and more like comic books, whereas here with this film you really feel like you're in this horrible backward village where, you know, it's just populated with bigots and racists, and it's just lots of atrocities take place there. Anyway, if you're maybe into filmmaking yourself, if you like to analyze filmmaking techniques, this is a terrific film. And this release from Arrow Video is really full of extras. There is a great chunk of an audio interview with Fulci. It's subtitled in English and it covers a lot of really interesting episodes from his life and times in the Italian film industry. And then of course there is interviews with some of his collaborators who have worked on this film. Don't Torture a Duckling is definitely the one to see if you're wondering about Fulci's thrillers, Fulci's gialli. A lovely film if you don't mind a downbeat atmosphere. Next up is a personal favorite of mine, Murder Rock. That's another giallo. That's Fulci's final giallo. It's also his last time shooting in North America on decent budget. So this was made, they shot a few days without permits in New York City, and the rest was done in the interiors in Italy, in Rome. It's like a very bloodless remake of the New York Ripper, with disco dancing instead of slashing and disembowelments. It's a film where there are quite lengthy sequences of well choreographed, highly period dance sequences, and movies like Flashdance come to mind, and there are also murder set pieces, but they're nearly bloodless due to the weapon. You can see the weapon here on the cover. It's a kind of a old-fashioned hat pin, and the murderer drives it into the victim's hearts, but they are immobilized before that, so they don't thrash about, they don't really scream. So it's one of Fulci's less violent films, which makes it a great option for those who are interested in this filmmaker, who don't need gore in their movies. It's a well-told story, it's a complex whodunit. There is a great lead from actor Cosimo Cinieri, who's died a couple of years ago, and he's appeared in 4 or 5 Fulci movies. He plays this disgruntled police inspector or Lieutenant Borges, and is kind of a bit of a cliche cop, you know, with this kind of wearing this raincoat and being sort of pissed off all the time. But Cinieri makes the cliched character actually come across as really interesting. Also, there is a small supporting role from Silvia Collatina, who was the girl from The House by the Cemetery. This is a German Blu-ray from X-Rated. It's a hardbox, and there is a nice featurette featuring the producer Augusto Caminito and supporting actor El Cleaver, and they talk about how this film came about, how it was in the time when Fulci was already struggling, getting new projects off the ground, and Murder Rock was one of his last films which had a decent budget before he completely went downhill, making those straight-to-video quickies before his career disintegrated. And he would only come back to the US one last time to make Door to Silence, which is one of his more obscure films. I love Murder Rock, I watch it often, and I'm very happy with this Blu-ray in my collection. Next up is Enigma, a movie which is going on 35 years old now. It's made in Yugoslavia, or in present-day Bosnia, and it stars Jared Martin and Lara Lamberti. It's a wonderful cliched 80s teenage supernatural revenge horror in the vein of Patrick and Carrie. And it's extremely low budget, with some very dodgy camera work, with some shots very blatantly blurry and some wobbly zooms, so you can tell the crew on this film was not as experienced and not as pro as on Fulci's earlier classic horrors. So Enigma has a slightly shabbier look, and you can tell it was made somewhere else, so the locations have that Eastern European flair to them. And it's supposed to be set in Boston, but they didn't shoot a single frame in Boston. It was completely made on location in Yugoslavia. Fulci has a cameo in Enigma, and he doesn't look good. He looks really knackered in that movie. He looks really sick, actually, physically sick. I love this movie a lot because it has some really nice, charming, low-budget visual tricks, like, you know, superimposition effects to create appearances and disappearances, and there is some very basic, like rotoscoping to create like glowing eyes on characters. So there is no CGI, it's very basic handcrafted effects. Fulci apparently supervised the effects on this movie himself. This is a DVD, again it's quite a vintage DVD now from X-Rated, and it's nice and anamorphic, but I'm going to upgrade Enigma to Blu-ray, you know, when the opportunity comes, because this film, even though it's not brilliant and it's slow moving and there are definite problems with the screenplay, there is some padding, but it has a great 80s vibe, and I love the score by Carlo Maria Cordio. It's a cool film if you're into 80s ghost horror, supernatural horror. There is that kind of blue filtered lighting which is so typical of the period, and if you're a Fulci fan, then you'll find plenty to enjoy here. There is the crazy snail attack. It's a dumb story, and it's not got a very coherent ending, but it's really enjoyable. So if you like Fulci, there is no reason not to own Enigma. So thanks for watching, see you next time, bye.